In today's day and age, the topic of self-image in America feels contradictorily nuanced and tired. On one hand, the phenomena of self-image in America is nothing new, as Americans have grappled with issues like body image, societal standards, and just exterior perception for decades. Conversely, since the inception of the internet, the conversation has been amplified to unprecedented proportions, seeing as modern-day social media primarily functions as an individual's curation of their own desired self-image. This dichotomy offers up a fascinating investigation with regards to self-image, society, and status, particularly when viewed through the lens of art history. A person's image, or the intentional depiction of oneself, is a thing that dates back to the dawn of art. The most prominent example is portraiture. Portraits were usually a byproduct of commission, meaning they were a calculated, intentional rendition of one's physicality. In recent history, modern-day social media has led to the rise of the selfie. When examined through an art historical lens, it becomes clear that there are many similarities between portraiture and selfie. We see in both American portraiture and American selfie that American people throughout the course of history have almost irreversibly prioritized wealth and status as important. This video essay will argue that the American aesthetic is one that conflates wealth and class with value. The use of style and iconography in early American portraiture and modern-day selfie proves that, as a society, Americans have yet to break free from upholding an unrealistic ideal concerned only with status. Initially, in colonial America, portraiture was regarded as a British luxury, reserved only for the wealthy elite. But as America grew, the emerging middle class shepherded in a new market of clientele, which required the emergence of American portraiture artists. Yet, American portrait artists were largely self-taught, emulating the style of the highly regarded British portraits. So portraiture in colonial America began as mimicking something that had already been established by the British. This is intensely telling, seeing as how the ideals of portraiture were something that the Americans tried to grasp at, but was fundamentally unattainable, as it had already been established by the British. Artists in this era include Benjamin West and John Singleton Copley. Providing a history of the selfie seems perhaps redundant to any viewer of a video essay on YouTube, but here we go, just in case. Historically, the birth of the selfie is attributed to Robert Cornelius. He was a man who took a photo of himself in 1839. Meanwhile, cultural icon Paris Hilton often credits herself with the birth of the selfie, and she might be onto something. In truth, she was a revolutionary in the modern selfie, because her selfies included a mobile phone and being posted online. Conventions of a modern selfie often change just as quickly as it takes to take a selfie, often reflecting trends and showcasing only what is desirable. The politics of a selfie are convoluted. A selfie can be a radical declaration of self-love while simultaneously being a facet for showing off. For lack of a better word, artists in the selfie include Kim Kardashian and Emily Ratajkowski. To begin, let's start by analyzing the conventions of American portraiture. When analyzing portraiture, iconography is crucial to our understanding of the person depicted. Iconography in portraiture is usually consistent across all portraits, with certain items having certain meanings. This is John Singleton Copley's rendition of Mrs. John Winthrop from 1773. In this portrait, we see Mrs. John Winthrop, the wife of Puritan lawyer John Winthrop in colonial America. Mrs. John Winthrop is depicted holding a branch of fruit in her left hand and a single fruit in her right.
She loved botany, so this represents her education.
Food symbolizes prosperity and growth. Moreover, her outfit is painted with careful consideration. The lace of her sleeves, in her neckline, and in her hat is delicate and intricate. The striking blue shade of her dress makes her stand out against the background, brightening up her aura. She is also depicted with jewelry on. Her wedding ring symbolizes her pride in her marriage, a happy home life. This is amplified by the pearls strung around her neck. This is a demonstration of excess wealth and expensive possessions. In the way that a portrait is a reflection of oneself, this portrait provides a literal reflection of Mrs. John Winthrop. Mrs. John Winthrop is resting her elbows on a perfectly clean table, and in it we can see her reflection. In this sense, the painting is shouting at us to see this representation of this woman as something important and idealistic, as her reflection isn't only being represented once, but twice. Ultimately, this portrait perfectly encapsulates the essence of early American portraiture. While the portrait objectively demonstrates significant artistic prowess, that's not necessarily the objective of the painting. Instead, this portrayal of Mrs. John Winthrop moves past just her likeness and enters into a depiction of her societal status. This portrait therefore acts as a reminder to any onlooker to aspire to this ideal. This perhaps jaded interpretation of portraiture is shared by decorated art historians. Marcia Poynton, a British art history scholar, argues that portraits act as a window into the functioning of the ideals in society at a given time. She phrases it succinctly, describing portraiture as a tool that makes possible the registering of identity in relation to the social. Moreover, this perspective is also shared by John Singleton Copley himself. American art historian Susan Rather provides excerpts from letters written by Copley in her book. Her chapter, Portrait Painting and Status in Boston and London, begins with a quote from Copley, demonstrating his frustration with the art form. This, of course, is not limited to this particular painting or to Copley, but is exhibited across most colonial portraiture. Now that we have established that American portraiture doesn't necessarily operate as a vehicle for artistic expression, but rather as a way of upholding societal ideals and a social hierarchy, we naturally arrive at a comparison between portraiture and selfie. And therefore, when examining the selfie from this angle, it becomes clear that a selfie really isn't anything new. The selfie instead is simply an evolved manifestation of the same psychological phenomena that made way for portraiture. German psychologist Klaus Christian Carbon asserts that the desire for self-depictions and their inherent connotations is nothing new. In Carbon's study, he even provides what can only be described as a selfie iconography guide. Now let's use these tools to perform an art historical analysis on a selfie. Of course, by none other than the selfie queen Kim Kardashian. If we refer to Carbon's guide, we can distinguish this particular selfie as a landmark selfie, as she is situated on a beach. A landmark selfie signifies exclusivity. The mere act of Kim K taking a selfie on a beach psychologically signals to us that she wants us to notice that she's on a beach capable of this type of luxury. Now, Kim's facial expression is one of carefreedness. A ducklet face shows connection to youth and gives off a personable vibe. Kim wants us to think of her as spontaneous, young, and in the know. Of course, Kim's selfie also showcases her idealistic body. She looks impossibly perfect. Her glowing skin, her manicured brows, her long eyelashes, her curvaceous cleavage. She is staying true to her brand she's built for herself in this idealistic version of a human. When we take all of this into consideration, it becomes overwhelmingly clear that this selfie is anything but just a picture of Kim Kardashian. Instead, it operates as an image of the Kim Kardashian brand, cementing her role as an Instagram mogul as something wholly unattainable. We can look to almost any other celebrity selfies and arrive at similar conclusions. Think of mirror selfies in the bathroom of the Met Gala, or celebrities lounging poolside in their backyards. And from a scientific standpoint, the cognitive process of posting on Instagram has been directly related to narcissism. A 2016 study from the University of Alabama deeply investigated the motives behind the use of Instagram. To quote the study,
surveillance/knowledge about others was the most influential reason behind Instagram use. Information ranging from one's socioeconomic status, relationship status, amount of friends, etc., can be easily found through an Instagram profile.
In this quote, we see a repeated occurrence of the depiction of self moving past a legitimate form of respectable art and instead operating as a vehicle for understanding the societal status of others. All of this is to say that the motives behind taking a selfie and posting it online are more convoluted than one may think. The Instagram selfie was never about just looking nice, and instead is a deceptively politically autonomous image. In conclusion, it's clear that while American trends for expression have changed, the obsession with social hierarchy remains intact. We have seen through this investigation that the motivations for portraiture and selfie are eerily similar. This allows us to conclude that the American obsession with wealth and status is inherently tied to us. It's something we are wholly unable to shed. This investigation has allowed us to see portraits and Instagram posts for what they really are. This does not mean that they should be denounced or shamed. taking selfies is pretty fun, and portraits are feats of painting that are beautiful to look at. This investigation was solely to analyze the similarities between portraiture and selfie, arguing that this obsession with wealth and status has dated back to the beginning of our nation and has continued into modern day society.